3, 2, 1. And it seems that we are live. Hi, Ari. Hi, Branimir. How are you?
Hi, Tomaž.
Let's give it another second or two for people to have a chance to dial in before we officially kick it off. This very, very interesting episode. All right, without further ado, welcome everybody to the On Trac podcast, episode 15, titled Towards World's Largest Content Library. The On Trac podcast is here to bring the latest, greatest, most interesting and everything around that that's happening in the OriginTrail ecosystem. And this episode is going to be nothing short of interesting, exciting, and everything, all that's happening around the OriginTrail ecosystem, as we will be focusing on, as the title suggests, building the world's largest content library, and not just building it for the fun of it, but building it to serve a very, very important purpose of creating a digital immune system for the world in the age of artificial intelligence. As probably a lot of the more frequent listeners or tune-inners into the On Trac podcast might already guess, the topic will revolve around a company called Umanitek, juggernaut of the OT ecosystem, with a very ambitious and a very active role played in the artificial intelligence field, focusing on what AI can bring as harms, so that we could remove those harms and really unlock the opportunities that are on the table, and to do so using heavily the decentralized knowledge graph as a network to create relevant knowledge and as the infrastructure underpinning it. Before we go into all of these very interesting topics, and I have a few bullet points that I'll be chasing my fellow podcasters on these occasions through, I would like to give you both the chance to say hi and to maybe say just hello to the OriginTrail ecosystem, and then we'll jump into the topics. Well, I give the guest the opportunity to go first, and Ari will do a deep dive into your intro later, so we can just say kind of keep it short on this one, and we'll do a proper one in just a minute.
Sounds good. Great pleasure to be here, and appreciate being invited to this episode, and looking forward to our discussion, and greatly appreciate everybody who is listening and will be listening in the future. So happy to be here.
Awesome, great to have you. Brana, your time to shine, my brother.
Yeah, hey everybody, nice to be back. Super happy to have Ari with us and to have this chat together. And yeah, I hope you enjoy the next 45-ish minutes on this very exciting journey that we're on. And for that, we're going to be immersing ourselves deeper into it in any moment. So really excited to chat this with you guys.
Awesome. So maybe as a backdrop, just a bit of intro about Umanitek, so that we have a bit of a foundation set. And once we have that set, we'll jump into who is Ari and what is and who is Videntifier. What are they focusing on? Just to give you a bit of an agenda run through, guys, we'll also focus on the topics of artificial intelligence more broadly, where we see the dangers, where we see the opportunities. We'll speak about what is digital immune system altogether, and how can we create it. And of course, to wrap it up, we will be looking forward towards the upcoming activities, events, launches, everything that's cool and interesting that's coming up. So very purposefully set at the end of this session, so we make you stay with us all the way to the end. But yeah, we'll make sure that it's worth your while. Without further ado, Umanitek, like I mentioned, the company focused on reducing AI harms by establishing a network. By establishing a network of relevant labeled content. We have seen a lot of different entities, organizations, create a lot of very interesting signal about which content is positive, which content is negative, which content is true and which content is just not. And these are the topics that are already a challenge within the current internet, let's say, and it's an increasing thing that is going to become more and more tricky to handle as artificial intelligence keeps having a bigger and bigger stance in our everydays, meaning both from the side of how are we producing new content and how are we also consuming new content. So from the both side of the equation, it's going to be we're going to have impacts in the way how we are creating these types of interactions, and it's just going to be increasingly harder to know without proper provenance in place what actually we are interfacing with. As said, Umanitek is tackling that heads-on by creating a digital immune system created from a network of contributions that put forward labeled content saying what content is bad, what content is good, so that we could have then what we call guardian agents, which are the products or product of Umanitek, employed in a way that they are able to both help businesses, organizations, governments to have a very streamlined access and a very configured, a very, very customized access to this digital immune system so that they can perform their actions. If you're a platform that allows you to stop a particular harmful content to entering your system, if you're a law enforcement officer, it could help you identify what is actually good and bad and save you time as you're trying to catch the bad guys who are attempting to get around those systems. So in effort for Umanitek to achieve that goal, we are growing the network of content very in big strides. Obviously, again, those of you who maybe are more familiar with the matter are already aware that Umanitek is collaborating with ALO, the giant in the adult entertainment space, to enable sharing of the verified safe content of ALO with other participants, including the law enforcement officers, again, trying to really create a better safety net or a net catching, a better filter to catch a bad content as soon as possible. Very important partnerships have also been announced with Umanitek and Videntifier, where again you're seeing that both the expansion of available signal on the network, but also expansion of the types of tools that we are able to use with Umanitek Guardian Agent, namely the Videntifier's encryption technology. And with that as a segue, I'm very, very happy to have a chance to introduce today on our episode Ari Jonsson. He's the CEO of Videntifier, but he is also so much more. I would, even before we jump into Videntifier, we had a chance to speak on a couple of different occasions, and the one story that really stuck with me is that when we were speaking about artificial intelligence, Ari was mentioning how you were actually building some decision systems using elements of artificial intelligence before the cool kids came in with the transformers and and the large language models, but rather for a mission that ended up being out of this world, landing on Mars. Maybe just to kind of kick it off, how did that come about?
Thank you, Tomaž. So yes, I have to admit that my work in artificial intelligence actually goes back to last century. I started my research into AI decision-making systems in the early 90s. And then in the late 90s, I ended up joining NASA, where I spent 10 years developing and fielding AI-based systems. To start out with, we were using those systems purely as a theoretical exercise, using them in test cases and analog missions. But in the early 2000s, the call came to see if our technology could help operate very complex machinery on Mars. The first set of Mars exploration rovers, Spirit and Opportunity. And so I got deeply involved in that mission, took on the job of development lead for a system that helped engineers and scientists operate the spacecraft and help automate some of the decisions about how the rovers could operate to get as much science in a safe manner as possible. We then continued developing these kinds of capabilities all through the 2000, the noughties, and applied them in a variety of different applications, including operating certain systems on the International Space Station. The fundamentals of those systems were very different from what the cool kids, as you said, Tomaž, brought into the playground, which are the large language models. And these are highly complementary. So it is fantastic to see what has happened with AI development in the last 10, 20 years. And the capabilities that we are developing today in this field are amazing in terms of the opportunities they afford us. And there is, more than just, chatbots and things like that. There is so much capability this brings to the table. But at the same time, these kinds of technologies bring with them certain risks, potentially threats. And it's important for us all, both who are developing technology in this arena and those who will be using it, from end user to governments, to look at this responsibly and figure out how we address the risks as well as the fantastic opportunities this affords us. So very happy to be here at this point in time. Since being at NASA, I've been in charge of a university. I've been in public policy development, entrepreneurship, startup companies, VC investments, and now I'm very happy to be part of the Videntifier team, and particularly happy to be working together with Umanitek and the OriginTrail network and community. So thanks for having me as part of this.
Awesome background, man. Yeah, it's I always enjoy the background story, giving context also in how, what's the frame of thinking or how you're approaching it, and because there's a flavor. Obviously, AI systems kind of a lot of times mimicking some of the human ethos or methodology or the way we go about things, as they are designed in sort of our likeness. And so I think also the way we have our backgrounds are then influencing how we're thinking about kind of finding opportunities or eliminating threats in these types of systems. And with that type of a kind of, maximum production ready thinking, I think it's a very good segue into it. Before we deep dive into Videntifier, Brana, it's taking where really Ari kind of left off in terms of AI genesis, but also what we're seeing right now. Do you want to highlight any of the things in terms of the dangers, of course, as it pertains to what we're doing with Umanitek, and as well as the opportunities that you're seeing from your side?
Yeah, it's I can go also very back into the history, but let's start from now and go back. So today, if you look at where we're at with the technology that's been built out for decades now, and in different branches of AI, we're coming to the phase where it can generate awesome things, and awesomely plausible material, such as images and videos that look basically, let's say, unreal. They're so good that it can trick people, and it's that line between, up until recently, you could kind of see it, like a few extra fingers in the video, or something odd or looking a little bit artificial. But in about a year or two, of course nobody can say when, but by the trajectory we're on, looks like very soon we're going to be basically unable to distinguish what is real and what is AI generated. And that future is obviously very tricky. So think of any content online that you might be able to run into anywhere: Twitter, TikTok, email, news websites, just being filled with this. So many consequences of this. First of all, how do you know what to trust? That's been an issue, but now it's becoming like an exponentially bigger problem. Somebody can take your likeness and then generate something you don't like, which is another set of problems, like putting you in a video or some situation that you have never been. And that might cause a lot of uproar online, because I believe we as humans, we've kind of, the way we've evolved is to basically through immediate perception make kind of a immediate inherent conclusion. What I see is real, right? So I remember my dad, it's his birthday, by the way, today. He told me how when he was, he's 73 today. Thank you. And he told me when he went to the first movies in theaters, those scenes where a train would go towards the camera and kind of basically look like it's going to hit you. Well, he told me that he witnessed once people running out of the theater because it was just so real for them, right? And people were scared. He even said that he remembers some people at that time, just 50 plus years ago, that people watching like Tarzan, they thought it was a documentary, and this is not like random stupid people. This is just normal people. And so why am I saying this is because we have the same apparatus inside, right? And we have much better technology to produce things that look real to our apparatus. So we're gonna have a lot of trouble because of this. And then looking at the technologies, if we go back into history, AI, the way it didn't start being this creative and generative. It started being very rule-based. So we haven't really had this situation before. Like we had great AI that could play chess, because chess is a deterministic thing. It's a game. It has rules. It has very determined spots on the board, right? And especially chess is not that complicated, let's say. So it has a limited, finite number of potential moves or game states. So IBM's former AI used to beat the best human in the world but it wasn't really that creative. It would just compute all the possible games it could play, and it would pick the best path, right? So that was the AI back then. But now today's AI not only can do what it used to be able to do back then, it can just invent amazing things, including copy what looks like real into something that is essentially not real. So the problem is going to be, we're getting into this Matrix territory, or for the fellow fans of sci-fi, Philip K. Dick and Ubik and all these topics it's here. So we obviously need to somehow tackle this issue. Since we haven't known about it before, we need novel solutions. And so basically new types of problems require new approaches. And I'm really, really excited that we are on this journey together with Videntifier, because the new approaches are going to have to somehow employ a multitude of different technologies. So having the ability to track content with provenance in some verifiable way, and at the same time find similar content, while at the core not in any way infringing on privacy, or minimizing that impact as much as possible. So it's it's a really it's a big pleasure to be able to tackle this, and I believe we're able to tackle it in a very unique way that different types of fusions of technologies cannot. But perhaps before I go into there, it would be great to perhaps, I'm not sure the way, if this is the flow, but we should introduce a bit what Videntifier is doing to the community. So I think it makes sense to build on that afterwards.
Yeah, I think it's a perfect segue, and thanks for kind of the overview. I would definitely second Branimir's point around Videntifier's path. I've had a pleasure of hearing about it. I think it's super exciting. I think you guys are doing such an important work. If you could speak to both the technical challenges that you were able to crack in your very unique way, but as well as just as far as you can, of course, like in terms of the commercial work that you've done, who were some of the clients you cooperated with. Obviously, a lot of very important work done also with law enforcement, and that's, I find, very, very important and exciting to hear about. So if you could give us like a little bit of an overview of Videntifier, that'd be fantastic.
Happy to. And also want to second what Branimir said about the world changing today, and we are just, as humans, I mean, it's ingrained in us that seeing is believing. If we see something, we have a very hard time not believing it. Is almost in our DNA and our neurological structure. And this is one of the reasons that visual elements have always had such profound impact on us. And that really is where Videntifier starts. It's in the visual, and the original problem that we were tackling, and this goes back to when Videntifier didn't even exist. It was just an idea of a project at a university. Is how do you have machines automatically identify reliably, robustly, and quickly visual content that is known visual content, and that turns out to be a very tricky technical problem. The old style of figuring out if two digital copies of some visual content, whether it's images or videos, whether it was the same, was to essentially compare the content of the digital file, compare the numbers that represented various bits and pieces of the picture. And in worst case, there was just a question, is this the same file as this one? That just doesn't really work in the real world for a number of reasons. One is that if people are trying to hide content, they will deliberately obfuscate it, hide it, change it, flip it, or embed it in something else, crop it, change the colors, etc. But also, even if you're not trying to hide anything, if you're just sharing information, you often splice it into something, to a bigger story. You embed it, you edit it to make it more powerful. And again, visual is so impactful on us humans that it's natural for us to make changes so we can maximize the impact or hide the information if we are working on that side of things. So Videntifier started developing a technology that would allow it to recognize visual points in any image or video frame. And these are not visual points that are relevant to us humans as concepts. So it was not a question of recognizing humans or objects like teapots and plates and airplanes or cars, but rather identify visual points in an image or video frame that are so unique and so well defined that they will survive any kind of modification. So typically that means high contrast points, geometry, very decisive geometry. And by happenstance, behind me, I have a set of shelves. And you can imagine the points that would be picked by the Videntifier technology would be contrast points in the corners between the shelves and the walls, and contrast points on the various objects, as well as various interest points around my glasses, my face, my shirt, etc. And so if you collect enough of these interest points, you can really form a unique identifier for that image or for that video frame. Of course, it requires a lot of points. You also record the relationship between those points, but it becomes a unique identifier. And this unique identifier has a couple of really important characteristics. First of all, it's completely secure. There is no way to recreate the image from that unique identifier. The unique identifier is something we call fingerprints. And so if you have a fingerprint, you can't reconstruct the image. So it's perfectly safe to share the fingerprints and move them around even if you can't move the visuals. The second thing is that those fingerprints actually do work very much like human fingerprints, that you can make a match to the closest kind of match in a database that you have, even if it's partial. Even if you only have a portion of the image, even if only a small portion actually matches, you can still find related visual content that has the same or similar set of visual points. And so what this technology allows you to do is to really establish a relationship between two versions of an image or a video, even if they've been heavily modified. And that's very important, both for protecting interests and also to adhere to the law when it comes to the question of harmful and illegal material. Now, this in itself is just part of the equation, because you can have a very, very large complex thing, and if it's so complex that finding any matches will take forever, it's unusable. So what the second part of our invention is a unique database. It's a database that can store hundreds of millions of these fingerprints, hundreds of billions of these fingerprints, enough to represent 10 million hours of videos easily. And it still allows us to find the nearest matches in real time, in milliseconds. And so with this technology, we are now able to, and let's start with one of our first customers, which is Interpol. With our technology, Interpol could index and fingerprint all of the known material that Interpol wanted to keep track of. And this is harmful, illegal content. And they can index it in such a way that any of the associate police department and countries, as well as Interpol forensic specialists, could, for any questionable material, automatically, without even looking at it, see if it matched any of the known material in fraction of a second, even if the bad guys or gals had tried to modify it. Now, this kind of technology also has a lot of other applications than just identifying illegal and harmful material. It is being used now, and we were all last weekend in Amsterdam at the International Broadcasting Convention, showing how we can be used to prove provenance or to identify the fact that some news information, some broadcast information has been modified, such as by AI to transmit misinformation or fake news. It can be used to help protect copyright. It can be used for advertisers and brands to keep track of their visual materials when it goes out to partners, influencers, and others use it, and so on and so forth. So it has a lot of different applications, but we're particularly excited about the application that we see in the context of Umanitek and this development of a coherent infrastructure through the network they are developing to allow our technology and other complementary technologies to be used together safely, securely, and efficiently to really tackle the content issue on the internet. And that goes to clean up harmful and illegal content, whether it's real or generated by AI, as well as to protect the interests of content creators, of individuals, their likenesses, etc. And so we see great potential for Videntifier and our technology to become part of Umanitek is doing. And I'm happy to go into further detail in the discussion with my colleagues here about how this all fits together.
Awesome. I think nothing short of they're amazing. You guys are on the work that you've been able to achieve so far, and I'm very much there in terms of compatibility. It just I think since the first touch points with Umanitek, it was like a pretty straightforward thought process as how these things fall together. Branimir, if I could kind of nudge you to share your thinking in terms of the importance of having the complementary approach to using multiple tools and multiple different data repositories or different having data in multiple locations to be able to effectively address some of these challenges, and just what do you think about the possible scale around that? Sorry about my dog. That's Rio. He's going crazy a little bit, but I'll shut him down in the meantime.
God bless him. Yeah, it's a really good question. I mean, going very broadly, what we're speaking about here is effectively classified as a search or retrieval type of problem. So we're trying to, in a general sense, find something, let's say, load something on YouTube, Twitter, whatever type of video shows up, and let's imagine that there's a small button somewhere I can click, to check if this content can be found in the Umanitek by Umanitek Guardian. And so essentially, it needs to take this and try to do the best it can to find this or similar content like this in the library, this biggest content library that we're talking about. And so if there's many ways to search, one being this similarity that we just mentioned, which is incredibly powerful, especially in the way Videntifier does it. So perhaps for those of you who have done some similarity search in the sense of building, let's say, RAG systems with vector databases, this is similar, but it's much more powerful because from a regular standpoint of a vector database, a classic, let's say, vector is something you could generally reverse. So you might not necessarily be able to reverse it 100% into exactly the content it came from, but you could be very close. And so what Videntifier does with perceptual hashing for these types of different types of vectors, if we will. I hope I'm not going out of the exact labeling, but we get the ability to do that privately, so you cannot reverse it. Very much like blockchain principles of hashing don't let you reverse the hash, get the content back from the hash it was produced. Yet at the same time, the hash preserves the integrity of the original content, and which is another very useful tool. Having that said, similarity only gets you so far. So think of it as like a Google search, and it will return top 10 or like a list of sorted things that are closest to what you need. And then from that moment on, the next step is really, okay, how do you understand what of those candidate results, what should you do with them? Like, should you include them in your deliberation? Are they maybe just similar but not exactly what you're looking for? Depends again on the context, depends on the question, but ultimately you always end up being in some sort of situation where you need provenance information. So number one, where does this information come from? But not just where does it come from, it's also how old is it? Is it fresh? Is it 2 years old? Ideally, how was it generated? So all these things we might call metadata come as very useful in these types of searches, but even more importantly, relationships. So if we have content and we can connect it with other things, like this content was seen on Twitter, and it was also seen on Facebook, and it has been seen on these particular pages. All of a sudden, you get much more context that you can use in that search. That is basically ultimately going to give you an answer to a certain question. In this particular case, let's say a group of questions of, is something already available on the web, or is it AI generated, and so forth. And what we're really particularly excited about here is that OriginTrail as a technology, the DKG provides these capabilities out of the box, especially in the new packaging of the new OriginTrail DKG edge nodes, which can be run on any edge device, laptop, phone, and those enable basically access to this information. They also enable adding this information to the graph. Once you get these relationships together, the graph is the most sensible structure to get them together. So it's interesting. We learned this along the way. Like relational databases, though it sounds like these things are related a lot, they break after a certain point because they're not designed for so much flexibility. Quite often you can do a lot of things, but they limit you in the sense of either scaling when you need to have a lot of flexibility in different connections. So when you want to generalize from certain domain to any possible domain, then it's very tricky, and that's where graphs excel, especially over things like document-based projects, and especially in a distributed environment. So that's why we are big fans of very, very mature standards like the W3C standards coming from the semantic web idea, which is this original Web 3.0 idea. Having that said, the new OriginTrail edge nodes are really the premier, I have to say, the best open source neurosymbolic AI tool on the market, which easily integrates with Videntifier tools and is being used by Umanitek. So effectively combining all these powers together, the graph, the power of Videntifier technology, and also through power of MCP, really with anything that's MCP enabled. And having that said, what I've been seeing from a bit on the side of what's being built with Umanitek Guardian is really incredible, because we're basically, from what I know, the only project that has this capability of doing these multiple searches, and therefore having a much bigger probability of finding the right content. Now, again, it's also about amassing these major libraries, because if you want to search, you have to search against something, right? You have to have some index. So if we want to protect everybody on the internet, there's no way other than building a massive, as Ari mentioned, hundreds of billions of entries type of database that is going to have all these things populated real time, so constantly growing, because the content will constantly be produced, right? So if we want to find similar content, we have to essentially build a real-time temporal knowledge graph with neurosymbolic capabilities, such as the ability to search in the domain of similarity on privacy-preserving video content, such as the way Videntifier does it. So it's such a natural fit, and it basically, there's a couple of paradigms here you can think of. For example, one is first you do the similarity search and you get certain results, and then you proceed and basically traverse the graph. So you let the agents run and in a way crawl the graph and see what interesting stuff they can find. Or you can go the other way around. You first start from the graph and then you proceed using the symbolic. So you start with the symbolic and then you move to the neural. And with the neural, you find these hops that might not be explicitly present in the graph that can actually help you find something that you normally wouldn't be able to find without this. So it's a really, really exciting project. I'm really looking forward to seeing it in action and to amassing this huge library, especially now that it's never been easier to really build with OriginTrail. So I'm really looking forward to see how Umanitek does it.
Yeah, awesome. There you have it. It's the blueprint towards the digital immune system, where we have DKG edge nodes ensuring that anyone or everyone, either it's an organization or a corporate wants to, or individual wants to join the system to become a part of contributing relevant inputs, are able to do so. And we have the framework of the DKG edge node there to basically have everything that we need integrated into where the data actually is, right? So bringing those tools to the data where it is. So we don't enforce anyone to give up anything that's theirs, but rather we bring cool stuff like Videntifiers, fingerprinting technology to the data where it is, and then providing an extra layer of security. So I think this is the core kind of needs of such a digital immune system, that we don't enforce people to share data, but rather they can keep it. We have everything encrypted to the maximum possible levels, but still be able to be compared. So we have the comparison capabilities for search across an endless sea of content that's ever growing, and we can continuously put in incentives to grow that system and those content pieces further and further. And we have an AI agent framework that allows us to pre-process, post-process, or just manage that query results in a way where it's 100% tailored to whatever our personal task is. And whether that is trying to protect your platform from bad content to get uploaded, or helping a police officer to identify if something has been used in other cases before, or it's protecting a individual creator or similar. So I think that's such a nice complementary mix that creates the perfect kind of blueprint at beyond state of the art, coming in and really delivering the value where the pain is the biggest. Cool. So now I'm kind of looking a little bit at the hour, and I think we do need to focus and spend the last section of our conversation on the facts of like what is coming up next, whether that is the activities, whether that's events, whether that's launches. I think we can kind of spend some time looking towards the future. So maybe Ari, I'll kick it over to you, and then I'll definitely fill in the blanks in terms of what's exciting, looking forward towards the next month or so.
Oh, there are so many exciting things happening, and thanks for pulling this all together. As it often is, when you bring these kinds of deep technologies together, there's a lot of complexity going on behind the scenes. But I want to be clear on the fact that if you're using the agents provided in the OriginTrails network, if you're using Videntifier as a tool to find visual relationships in a perfectly secure manner, from the standpoint of those who are using it, it's a rather simple thing to do. And so, whether you're an individual creator who wants to protect his or her creations, whether you're a large online service provider who wants to prevent bad things from being uploaded, or whether you are a brand who needs to keep track of very expensive commercials and appearances by famous people with partners and influencers and so forth, it really just boils down to, here are all the visuals that I'm interested. Here's all the information that I'm interested in tracking. I give those to essentially my local agent in the network, and that is sufficient for other agents and the network to collaboratively find references to the good content, bad content, the content I want to protect, likenesses of me and my family, and so on and so forth. So from the point of view of those who are using it, it's actually straightforward. And sometimes when things seem straightforward, people worry about them being unsafe. And I have to admit that some of our colleagues in the technology development, including the big tech companies, have created a feeling of uncertainty. Facebook, for example, mandates that anybody who wants content identified on their platform, whether it's movies, whether it's intimate images that get leaked out, the actual content has to be sent to Facebook. And that is not acceptable. You don't want to send your sensitive content to Facebook, whether it's images of you or your latest movie creation. And so what our technology really is allowing us all to do is to index our sensitive data, allow it to be found and us to be notified. And at the same time, we can use the fact that others are willing to share their sensitive data. For example, we have a collaboration with a large number of hotlines and others that have large databases of fingerprints of illegal and harmful material of various kinds. They are willing to share that with those who want to clean up their platforms. And by creating this very simple to use, in essence, technology where people can share good data, protected data, bad data on visual content, and that allows others to work better, be safer, have a cleaner platform, and also to protect themselves, their own personalities, and their created content.
Exactly. And yeah, I'm very kind of excited to say that we are going to be hanging out with Videntifier team in Reykjavik, not just to have a chance to workshop together, but in October there will be very much a next stage for Umanitek Guardian that's getting introduced, not only focused on being able to help platforms to protect themselves against harmful content entering, but also moving towards allowing retail users, if you will, individuals to have access to the same technology that we were discussing right now in order to protect their likeness, to protect themselves, their content, so that it does not appear online without their consent or in a way where they do not see best fit. So there will be a lot of details still released around that in the coming weeks, but there's definitely activity, including the activity on growing this what is expected to or what is the becoming the world's largest content library. So activity on growing that on DKG to start leading up to that event next month already. So it's very much a interesting period in which we will kind of see the rubber hitting the road, and yeah, the expansion towards the individual users is definitely something that is very, very interesting and a very, very powerful, potentially powerful tool to help address these AI harms where they really matter. Yeah, maybe Brana, do you want to put any comments on that side as well to in terms of what's coming up?
Yeah, it's going to be really exciting, and I guess I cannot share too much yet, but in terms of what is coming is going to enable at some point any individual to participate in the system. And when I say participate, I mean fully in participate, not in the sense of just being a user. So user as in protecting their content, searching, as we discussed, for similar content on the web that might be generated by AI or anything else, but also contributing. But yeah, that's I'll have to leave it at that for now. I cannot share much more.
Awesome. Yeah, no, look, guys, I really enjoyed this conversation with both of you. It was absolutely fantastic, Ari, for you to join us on today's On Trac, on this episode towards how we're building, or Umanitek is building, the world's largest content library together with Videntifier. I'm sure it's first of many appearances of you on the On Trac podcast, and that we'll have a chance to speak about new exciting updates with you very soon. Thanks for sharing your background, the company's background, and of course for sharing your thoughts and having a nice conversation with Branimir as well on the technical side of how the digital immune system in the AI age can not only be a hopeful dream, but rather something we can put in reality. So maybe some closing thoughts from both of you before we wrap this one up.
Yes,
Ari, you want to go first?
So first of all, thank you for having me here, and thank you so much for the collaboration that we've started and that we're embarking on. Look forward to being on future streams with you. As I said, the technology, what this kind of identification can do, different types of identification, doing it in the infrastructure and the capabilities that are developed by OriginTrail. The potential is infinite for so many users, actors, whether it's individuals or corporations. That is what I was trying to get across. The potential is infinite. We will be working on those, and we will be sure to notify everybody as we make the progress and get to points where we can share with you all the details of what we're doing. But keep your ears and eyes open for what we're going to tell you all about in October. We very much look forward to doing that.
Awesome. Brana, you're up, man.
Yeah, I'm just going to double down on what Ari mentioned, and it's exciting to be able to do it in the opposite way of Facebook doing it. As you said, they require you to send their content, and basically inherently the incentives are to gobble up as much content as they can for all of Facebook and Facebook-like companies out there. And it's a pleasure to be able to do it the completely opposite way. So not just privacy preserving, but also as a collective, really, in a decentralized way. And that's why this great infrastructure and this great technology that we have fused together enables us to do, because it really comes back to giving back the internet power, counter to this trend of centralized entities becoming more and more powerful, back to the users. And that means users both being able to use a decentralized technology, but at the same time participate in it, as I mentioned. So not just running the infrastructure, but publishing into the system of what is relevant and useful. So in a way, becoming each other's guardians. And it's a really, I think, noble way of us taking the power back, if you will, in a good way. So I'm really excited about it and looking forward to the Iceland event.
Awesome. There you have it, folks. Thanks so much for tuning into this episode 15 of the On Trac podcast. Happy birthday to Brana Senior, as this was referred to in the chat. And yeah, of course, don't worry. Rio the dog is getting all the treats in the world every day anyway, so he's not short on that. But thanks for your concerns. Alrighty. Thank you so much.